Dementia Joe now says the greatest terrorist threat the United States faces, white supremacy, baby. Good morning, Boston. Okay, the division, the hatred, the inciting racial tensions, inflaming racial tensions, the evil that really now is this administration. It just never lets up. Absolutely never lets up. And as many of you know, this weekend, a lot of people were celebrating college graduations all across the country. There were all kinds of commemoration events, graduation events. Well, Joe Biden, Dementia Joe, went to Howard University. In fact, that is where my wonderful wife, Grace, taught for several years. She taught European history. And at their graduation event, he was the keynote speaker. And he wasted no time. In an overwhelmingly black audience, there was Biden poisoning race relations, playing the race card, inflaming racial tensions again. Here is what Biden had to say to all of the newly minted graduates. Roll cut to Mike.
Racism has long torn us apart. It's a battle that's never really over. But on the best days, enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us, to choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat. To stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, it really is. But just in case, oink, wink, you didn't get the message. When he means white supremacy, he doesn't mean the KKK or crazy extremist lunatic fringe outfits like that. No. He's not talking KKK. He's not talking Confederate or neo-Confederate white supremacists, of which, by the way, when he was a senator, and I'll get to this soon, he palled around with and lionized and celebrated and glorified. But let that go. He means MAGA, ultra MAGA, Republicans, Trump voters. In other words, anyone who disagrees with him. Roll cut to a Mike.
And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU. I say it wherever I go. To stand up for truth over lies, lies told for power and profit.
I mean, it's pure evil. I agree with Miranda Devine on this of the New York Post. Not 100, 1,000%. This is simply pure evil. That's what this man is. It's now sow as much dissent, as much division, as much racial hatred as you can, inflame the minority population to make them believe that neo-Nazis and white supremacists are just around the corner. I mean, he did it with Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans in the midterms. Hitler was rising. That's all these Democrats know how to do. And, you know, I remember, and I said this to Grace over the weekend, don't you remember when your graduation ceremony and the keynote speaker would come and it would be an actually positive, uplifting speech, an inspirational speech? And it would be live up to the best of your potential, go out and succeed. The world is your oyster. You can accomplish anything you want to accomplish. Believe in yourself. Achieve your dreams. Don't ever let anyone tell you you can't otherwise. And it would usually be someone who came from maybe more a marginal background, but they actually became quite successful in life. That was usually the person they would invite as a keynote speaker. Instead, look what the Democrats are peddling. I just look at this garbage. They're going to kill you. They want you back all in trains. They'd lynch you. Slavery now. Slavery forever. You know, in the 1980s, in the 1990s, in the 2000s, in the 2010s, I'm talking now 40 years, nobody talked like this in front of any kind of a college graduating class. Never mind that an historically black college. They realized, and this was much closer to the end of segregation than we are now. My God, how much more we've improved in the last 40, 50 years. I don't know. Black presidents, black secretaries of state, how many African Americans and blacks in leading positions in corporations and Fortune 500 companies. I could go on and on and on. These guys are acting like I don't know what. It's Birmingham, Alabama, circa 1912. It's unbelievable, the stuff that comes out of their mouth. And it's always the white man is to blame. Whitey is to blame. White males, Republicans, Trump, MAGA, me, you. We're holding them back. You don't succeed. It's because of Jeff Kuhner. It's about Kuhner country and his listeners. Oh, my God. Well, they want secure borders. They want an end to forever wars. Oh, my God. They want energy independence. Oh, my God. It's David Doak. It's the most disgusting, vile politics I've ever heard in my entire life in the United States. Even Obama was not a demagogue like this. So, everything that goes wrong in their life, you're being held back. Why can't you succeed? Well, it's a racist, white supremacist system. You know, you don't achieve what you want to achieve, blame the Republicans, blame Kuhner, blame ordinary Americans, blame anybody who voted for Trump. They're the enemy. This is the kind of racist vile that is coming, that is being spewed, this poison that is being spewed out of his mouth. And he's talking, by the way, then he took off to Rehoboth Beach to spend the rest of the weekend. And he's talking as we have an historic border crisis in which now nearly 1 million illegals are pouring across the border, and in multiple stories now, they have captured, by the grace of God, 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, 5 members of ISIS, jihadists on an Afghan and here in the United States on our own terrorist watch list. They captured an ISIS cell from Afghanistan that was trying to come through the San Diego sector of the wide open border. So he's unleashed the floodgates, allowing God knows how many jihadists, how many Islamists, how many terrorists cells to come into our country. And he's going on about white supremacy? It's just... Really, it's mind-boggling with this guy, how low he will go. And remember this about the Democrats. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. For most of the 19th century, for much of the 20th century, they have used overt racism. That's what they did. They used overt racism. Who was the party of Jim Crow? Them. The party of segregation, them. The party of slavery, them. That's what they did. And now they're doing the exact same thing. It's a different kind of racism. It's a variation of that older racism, but it's still pure, unadulterated racism. That's what they're all about. Pitting black against white, demonizing racial groups. Then it was blacks inflaming whites. Now it's whites inflaming blacks. Demonize whites, demonize Republican whites, and in order to inflame minorities, to scare them. Their livelihood is going to be taken away. Their rights are going to be taken away. And this is the man who told us, what was it, in 2020, he was going to unite this country? No one has divided us more than Joe Biden. No one has alienated Americans more. No one has done everything in his power to have Americans rush at each other's throat more than this insane, pathological liar. And I'm going to listen to lectures on race and race relations from a guy who lionized Robert Byrd? Hey, Joey, blank off. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Biden now delivers another poisonous speech, this time in front of really almost an all-black audience. It was a graduation ceremony for the students from Howard University, an historically black college and university. And right to them, this is the message he's giving these 21, 22-year-olds. White supremacy is the greatest evil facing the United States. White supremacy is the greatest terrorist threat the United States faces. And if that message wasn't clear enough, wink, wink, it's coming from MAGA. Extremist MAGA, ultra MAGA, Republicans, Trump, conservatives, anybody who opposes me. Let me ask you, how long can we continue to have a president of the United States determined to pit the races against each other, to inflame African Americans, and to deliberately instigate hatred for whites? In particular, white Republicans, white Trump supporters, anyone who disagrees with his regime who happens to be white. How long can this last in the United States before we start having serious toxic relations in race relations, and we have, God forbid, a race war down the road? Because that's where this kind of inflammatory, reckless, evil rhetoric is now getting us. It's not just that he's lying. It's that he's lying to deliberately spark racial hatred and division. Let me ask you, is white supremacy the greatest terrorist threat that the United States faces? Do you agree with Joe Biden? And B, what should Republicans do? They laugh at him, they dismiss him, they ignore him. I don't think something this inflammatory and this hysterical and this irresponsible should be only met with laughs and jeers. I think the Republicans need to denounce him as a hater and as a race baiter, and if they don't, this message will start to penetrate. But that's me. I want to hear from you. Are you the greatest threat to the United States? If you're in your car right now and you happen to be white and you don't like Biden, are you now the greatest threat to our homeland? Biden and the sick Democrats say yes. I say they're insane. What do you say? 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to Mark in Pembroke. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey there, Jeff. In my opinion, the greatest threat to this country right now is it's not white supremacy. White supremacy doesn't really even exist anymore. The greatest problem we have right now is cultural Marxism, and all of this is cultural Marxism. They're trying to spread division. They're trying to spread hate and discontent for the current power structure. And they want to basically overturn the existing society and change it into something else. And that something else is going to end up being communism.
Mark, I agree with you 1,000%. Please don't get me wrong. But I want to ask you this. You're, say, a graduating student at Howard University. You've had your head buried in books for the last 4 years. This is one of the most important, pivotal days of your life. You're about to get your diploma, your college degree. And you hear from no less, now you see through them, I see through them, but, let's be honest, these are college students. And they're listening now to the President of the United States. And he's telling you at its graduation ceremony that you better look left and you better look right and you better look under your bed because there are white supremacists everywhere. And they're part of the Republican Party. They want to take away your ability to have a job. They want to take away all of your civil liberties. That if they could, they will bring back Jim Crow and segregation. Now, you're a newly minted college graduate, and you're listening to this. What are you going to think about your country? And what are you going to think about the Republicans and about MAGA supporters or conservatives? Aren't you going to turn around and say, my God, we have met the enemy, and it's them? Isn't this going to simply inflame and incite hatred, pure hatred, among many of these graduates? I mean, Mark, if you were in that room, what would your reaction be?
Oh, absolutely. I would think that I'm at risk. Yeah, I would think that I'm living in a terribly racist country. I mean, after all, it's coming from the top guy, the President of the United States. But again, that's what this is all about. This is critical theory, which is a tool of cultural Marxism. And cultural Marxism is a strategy to bring about a communist revolution in a prosperous society where you can't get people dissatisfied with their economic situation. So you've got to make them dissatisfied with the culture and bring about the communist revolution that way. That's what they're up to. But I think
Mark,
you know that.
You're dead on. Mark, you're absolutely dead on. Thank you very much for that call. No, it's exactly that. It's to create everything based on race. You see the whole world through race. And then to pit one race against the other. And I also think part of it, I'm going to get to this on the other side of the break, it's to lay the groundwork for reparations. I don't know if you saw this, but Gavin Newsom is now backtracked in California. He initially said, well, no, I don't think we want to give out $1 million checks. Well, he got tremendous blowback. And now Newsom is saying, well, maybe we will start giving out $1 million checks. So I think a lot of this is to create so much guilt in the majority white population that they'll want to start forking over millions in reparations. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, incredibly, when Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, America's Baghdad Bob, okay, this is a Baghdad Alejandro, an incorrigible liar, was asked on the Sunday talk shows about Biden's comments Saturday that white supremacy is the greatest is the greatest terrorist threat that we face, external or internal. Listen now. This is the guy presiding over the disaster, the invasion on our southern border. Listen now to Alejandro. Roll cut 3, Mike.
The president yesterday at his commencement address for the Howard University graduates called white supremacy the major domestic terror threat in this country. Is that correct?
It tragically is. In the terrorism context, domestic violent extremism is our greatest threat right now. Individuals are driven to violence because of ideologies of hate. Anti-government sentiments, false narratives, personal grievances, and the like. And regrettably, we have seen a rise in white supremacy.
Now, when he says anti-government sentiments, that means you oppose the Biden regime. When he says false narratives, you know what he's talking about, right? You believe that the Russia collusion hoax was 100% BS, as has been proven demonstrably. But it doesn't matter. If you go against the regime and the narrative, the official narrative of the regime, you're an enemy of the people. That's the big threat. Now notice, really, white supremacists. Okay, how about Black Lives Matter? How about Antifa? Tell me, what white supremacist organization has burned city after city after city to the ground? I'm just asking. How many of them have caused 12, 13, 14 billion dollars in damage? Responsible for the deaths of 36 civilians, including, by the way, 6, 7, 8-year-old children. Shooting police officers, maiming police officers, blinding police officers, looting, vandalism, arson. I could go on and on and on. No? 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 How about the Mexican drug cartels? No? How many executions? How many rapes? The drugs, the fentanyl that kills 100,000 Americans a year. No? No, they're not a terror. No, that's not a problem. No. But it's those Trump supporters. We gotta round them up, baby. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. What we are watching, if no one else has the guts to say it, I'm going to say it. We are watching the birth of an authoritarian regime. That's what this is. Right in front of our eyes. This is the FBI. This is the DOJ. This is this sick deep state that goes after parents and calls them terrorists for standing up to pornography, gay pornography in the classroom, or drag queen story hour to their kids in the library, or critical race theory in the schools. So preaching pornography and sex to 6, 7-year-olds, that they brand as a terrorist. You're a Catholic and you're a pro-life Catholic. The FBI considers you a threat. And they're now infiltrating churches to spy, to see who's a traditionalist Catholic and who isn't. These are FBI memos that have been unearthed and exposed. No, I'll tell you the biggest quote-unquote terrorist threat we face. The biggest enemy of the American people right now, it's not Vladimir Putin. It's not. It's the regime in Washington. They're the ones taking away our freedoms. They are the ones demonizing over half the population. They are the ones now unleashing crackdown after crackdown after crackdown. They are the ones who are now taking away our fundamental freedoms and rights. They're the ones who are now enabling and aiding and abetting, deliberately collaborating with the invasion taking place on our southern border. And you lecture us about white supremacy? I want to read this tweet. You want to see a regime of lies? You want to see what it's like now to live in the USSA? Listen now to this, okay? This is Joe Biden lecturing us. Jeff, this is from 781. You can text us 70470, 70470, 781. Jeff, Biden did not only pal around with former Democratic Senator Robert Byrd, the late Robert Byrd. He delivered a eulogy for the former Grand Wizard of the KKK. And in that eulogy, he called Byrd his quote-unquote mentor and quote-unquote dearest friend. I never palled around with Southern segregationists. You did. I never palled around with Grand Wizards of the KKK. You did. Yet you're telling us we're the racists and you're not? Come on. Come on. Get lost. Seriously. Get lost, you liar. You pathetic phony and fraud, you. One more, and I think this one's dead on. 617. Jeff, Biden's speech and now the constant drumbeat of white supremacy has a second purpose. You're right. It's about inciting racial division and hatred. But the second purpose is to soften up the white population, to frighten the white population into falling in line for reparations. Bingo. You don't want to be labeled a racist. Or you don't want to be labeled a white supremacist. Pay your $1 million. Cut the check and pony up. That's what they're trying to do, to morally browbeat us into submission. It's time for us to say enough is enough. America, love it or leave it. And we clearly have a commander-in-chief who hates this country and most of the people living in this country. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Michael in Beverly Farms. Thanks for holding, Michael. Welcome.
I loved you. Remember, I was the bodyguard and I did the open up Boston, and I opened up in prayer, and I pulled a Braveheart and said, freedom, freedom, freedom.
Yes!
That came to fruition. Number two, Jeff, let me just talk. I haven't talked to you 2.5 years because of January 6th. Trump will pardon him. Here's what's going on with Biden. I just took care of my father for 2 years with dementia. Both my parents are hospitalized. Did you get my email last May? They tried to kill my parents in 30 seconds. They want a Remdesivir and respirator for $40,000. Kill the white people in the hospitals and then unvaccinated like me and let the Mexicans come in with nothing. No vaccination. Because it's killing the white people. You forget that. The reason Biden's doing what he's doing was I talked to my father with dementia. I was his proxy, plus I'm with my mother's proxy now. He ended up dying in the hospital. I ripped my mother out of there to save her life. The conscience comes to the surface when you got dementia. So Joe Biden is talking about racism because he was a racist. That's it. Forget talking about Biden. We got to shut the border down now. The fentanyl's killing everybody, and the white people, they're cowards.
Michael, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Well, look, I mean, turn it around. Imagine if a president of the United States went in front of an all-white or predominantly white graduating class and started to go after blacks and say that black people are the root of all evil in the country and that the greatest threat that we face is black supremacy and black supremacists. I mean, could you just imagine that? And then saying, hey, you vote against me, you're an enemy. You vote for the Democrats, you're a terrorist. You oppose me and my regime, and you're an enemy of the state and an enemy of the people. And that we want blacks to pay reparations to whites. Can you just imagine if a president had said something like that? They wouldn't stand for it. They wouldn't stand for it. So why are we putting up with constantly being vilified and slandered and libeled and demonized? Why? 617-266-6868 is the number. 649 on the great WRKO. My God, what's it going to take to get this guy out of power once and for all? Go to retirement, leave this country alone, go to a nursing home, resign, step down, end this national nightmare once and for all. Joe Biden at a commencement speech over the weekend in front of Howard University students, graduating students, predominantly, in fact, almost all black. And there he is, fueling racial hatred, division, poisoning race relations in our country with the lie, the fiction, that the greatest threat our country faces is white supremacy. No, it isn't. The greatest threat this country faces is woke ideology. It is the Marxist liberalism, the radical progressivism that this administration is imposing on us and on the people of the world. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Kevin in Malden. Thanks for holding, Kevin, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kevin?
Good. So I was thinking, do you think like on the weekends when they take him and they put him back up in Delaware, that they load the punch cards up because he's an older model. He's not like a modern computer. They have to use the old punch cards with the holes in them. Remember those?
Yeah, yes.
They just load the programs up into them. This week it was white supremacy. Last week the economy is doing great. It's just a different thing each week. He has the gall to tell the American people that white supremacy is the worst thing that's going on in the country right now. Bill Malugin over the weekend reported that people on the terrorist watch list were captured in San Diego. People are just streaming in over the border. How long is it going to take until something really awful happens because we just let people we don't know enter the country?
Bingo. Honestly, Kevin, bingo. And thank you so much for that call. By the way, typical Kuhner Country listener / caller. Can you hear him at work? He's typing away at work. He's literally working. He's got to earn a paycheck to feed his family and pay taxes. And as he's calling, listening to the show and calling and talking. That's us. That's us. We don't even have time to put our work down to talk for a couple of minutes on the phone. It's not just Fox News. It's been reported by the Los Angeles Times, by numerous other media outlets. 5 members of ISIS came from Afghanistan all the way to the southern border. By the grace of God, they were captured by the Border Patrol. Over 500,000 have sneaked into our country since last October. No, I don't mean terrorists. I mean just illegals. 530,000 illegals have sneaked into our country, meaning they weren't even processed. There was no registration, and then they're, catch and release. At least there's some basic information on these people before they release them into the interior. No. 530,000 have come in utterly undetected. Also, I'm going to get to the border a bit later, I promise. An explosion now in all of these border towns, diseases. It is proliferating. But yeah, here, 5 ISIS terrorists on our terrorist watch list and the Afghanistan, the Taliban watch list. They were too extreme even for the Taliban, and they got captured. And this guy's going on about white supremacy. And just very quick, this is the guy eulogized Robert Byrd, as I read. Byrd was his mentor. Byrd was his best friend, his dear friend, the former Grand Cyclops of the KKK in West Virginia. But there were southern senators from Mississippi and from others throughout the 1970s Biden called his dearest friends. They collaborated on legislation. He praised them. He said they were some of the best senators he ever knew. So this guy who aided and enabled literally Southern segregationists, and this guy goes in front of an all-black crowd and says, if you oppose me, you're a white supremacist? That if you're a Trump voter or a MAGA voter or a Republican of any kind, you're a white supremacist and you pose the greatest threat to the United States of America? Are you kidding me? That's akin to Hitler going in front of a crowd full of Jews and saying, yeah, I'm the guy fighting anti-Semitism. You? With your history and your rhetoric? So I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is the pot calling the kettle black. He should be ashamed of him denouncing white supremacy with his history. Instead, they just put those cards in front of him, and that idiot goes there and yak. He repeats the lies over and over and over again. 617-266-6868 is the number. Ken in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Ken, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Ken.
I was busy this weekend, so a lot of the news that you're delving into, I only caught pieces of. I enjoyed Mother's Day. I particularly enjoyed the Celtics win. But I did catch a little bit of this Howard University speech. And the little bit that I caught, apparently, some of the students were laughing at Dementia Joe. I don't think blacks are buying his BS as much as maybe they were in the past. You know, here's the bottom line. He's been a partisan punk for decades. When he wasn't Dementia Joe, he was telling us Mitt Romney's going to put you in chains. We look back at that. I mean, that's laughable. Mitt Romney? You got to be kidding me. So his handlers have used him as a tool because he's been a partisan punk forever. And this is the only way you get Dementia Joe juiced up, is go back to the partisan punk game. It's running thin, Jeff. I think those polls showing the big decrease in black support for Dementia Joe are at least partially true. Maybe they're mostly true. We got a long ways to go for November 4th, 2024. I'm telling you right now, Jeff, the wheels are coming off. The left. They're coming off.
Ken, I got to say, look, really, he looks like such an idiot and such a fool when he goes up there and he makes these crazy, wild accusations. And I find it interesting you're saying, Jeff, he's become such a fossil and such a senile buffoon that even many in the Howard audience were laughing at him. Ken, do you think this act is really getting thin? Maybe this worked in 2020, maybe even worked a little bit in 2022, but how many times can you keep crying wolf? I mean, if everybody's a Nazi and everybody's a white supremacist, after a while, no one is a Nazi and no one is a white supremacist.
And Jeff, do you know the case that's going to really stun the Marxist media? Is the Marine in New York City. Alvin Bragg is going to be the albatross of the left. That case, I don't care that it's in New York City. In fact, they're thinking this, it's race. Everything is race. No, the people in New York City know that this guy was heroic. They're behind him. Do you bring that trial? Bring it on.
Interesting. Yeah, Mr. Penny was charged. He was arrested and charged with second-degree manslaughter on Friday by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg for essentially defending himself and defending others on that subway train. And grabbed Jordan Neely in a chokehold, who clearly was dangerous, clearly was threatening everyone around him. And you're right. There's a lot of sympathy in New York for Penny. And so you're right. Ken, you're right. This one may blow up in their face because I think New Yorkers are sick of, they're just sick and tired of being terrified simply riding the subway. They've had enough. Ken, as always, very interesting. Thank you for that call, Ken. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go to Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeffrey. I tell you, the only reason why I look forward to Mondays is you.
Thank you, Mark.
So, Jeff, I think the majority of black people out there, especially, I think they're looking at Joe Biden saying he's full of you-know-what, and they're laughing at him. Okay, you know what the next Trump ad should be, Jeff? It should start off with the narrator of the ad reading Bird's eulogy by Joe Biden. That's how they should start the ad off. And then go back and then go to what he said the other day at the college. And they're like, who is this guy? And why is he so full of you-know-what? Because just like I'm sorry, Jeff, just like your last caller said, they see right through this now. Before, probably not, but now they know, like you said, you cry wolf so many times, after a while, nobody's going to freaking believe you anymore. And I haven't believed this idiot from day one.
Mark, as always, thank you so much for your call. I mean, look, really, Trump is a white supremacist. Kevin McCarthy's a white supremacist. Mitch McConnell is a white supremacist. Really, the Republicans get the majority in the House, and fascism and, authoritarianism and Nazism. It's going to rear its ugly head. And Jim Jordan is a white supremacist. Comer is a white supremacist. I'm a white everybody's a white supremacist. And it's just like after a while, you're like, come on, what planet do you live on? Hey, sir, okay, maybe one person once it'll work. But all the time, everybody? Enemies under my bed, enemies to my left, enemies to my right, Nazis everywhere? Hitler. It doesn't stop with these idiots. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jake in Gloucester. Thanks for holding, Jake, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Jeff, you a little while ago talking about the man with no suit, Gavin Newsom in California, about the reparations. And the only goal that they have, and that this disgusting puppet in the White House has, is to hold together the black vote. That's the whole purpose of this. There's no other reason. There's no other reason what they're doing and bringing up for the past several years, especially the past 2 years, racist. There are words to describe. If your son, Jeff, grew up and you were an old man, and your son grew up to be a man like Biden, which he wouldn't do because you're the father. And according to a lot of reports, Biden's father wasn't the most ethical man in the world. You wouldn't want your son to associate with people like Biden. Nobody decent would, because Joe Biden has been a disgusting scumbag his whole life. And people are still falling for it. Those clapping seals in the media that interview him, that interview Mayorkas, that interview Anthony Blinken, they're just as bad as Biden, because they're aiding and abetting this communist takeover. And they're looking at it, and they're creating this fiction, these lies about white supremacy, and they're aiding and abetting that fiction. So the media is worse than Biden, because the media claps behind his back and claps in front of him like clapping seals and goes along with it. They are so disgusting. Did you see Mayorkas yesterday on television just spouting his disgusting lies? It's right, point blank, and nobody following through on any questions at all. The media is the problem. We can accept the fact that this is a communist regime in Washington wanting to take over every aspect of our life, but we have no media now. We only have people, thank God, like you, and we have other talk show hosts around the country. And Jeff, this reminds me of the attempt to get rid of AM radio because of people like you. You know why? Because most people that listen to AM radio driving their cars in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, put on talk radio, which is 90% conservative, and they can't take it. And if you eliminate eventually AM radio in all cars, what's going to happen is you eliminate half people like us. That's their goal. They've gotten to the manufacturers. That was their idea, to eliminate AM radio in cars, to eliminate conservative talk show listeners. But getting back to reparations, Jeff, there's no other reason. What they want, and they know they can't afford it. They know financially it's insane, absolutely insane. They are holding on to the black vote and the Jewish vote. And not that they're trying to hold on to the Jewish vote, but there are too many ignorant people that vote for these clowns. So we got to get back to a country that has some sort of media, Jeff.
No, Jake, you're completely right. And look, if you notice, this is how they get minorities to vote for them, is they always try to scare them. They always try to frighten them. So it's always white supremacy, anti-Semites, Hitler, fascists. They're always lurking. They're there in the shadows, behind the scenes, controlling the Republicans, you, me, Trump supporters, conservatives. It's always the constant fear-mongering over and over. Jake, I want to get back to something that you said about the media, because you're dead on. But believe it or not, Jake, I think you're understating it, if you can believe it. If they were just the Praetorian Guard for the communist regime, that would be one thing. But I want you now to listen to Comer. This is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. He's now really starting to build a devastating case. against the Biden crime family. And he now says that there are numerous whistleblowers who are starting to come out, and they're really exposing the influence peddling, the corruption, the bribery, the pay to play, the treason that Biden has committed throughout his entire career, especially as vice president and president. But listen to what he says. They're being intimidated, that they're reluctant to go public, that they now fear they're in hiding because they're being openly targeted and intimidated. But I want you to listen. This is an interview with Maria Bartiromo, who he says one of the groups intimidating them are. It's not just the White House, and it's not just the Biden regime. Listen to this. Roll cut 6, Mike.
It's of the utmost importance that the FBI work with us to be able to try to identify what research they've done, what investigations they've done, because we have people that want to come forward, but honestly, Maria, they fear for their lives. Not only are the Biden lawyers and the Biden White House intimidating them, the media is trying to intimidate and discredit them.
The media! So what are they now, kneecappers for the Democratic Party? And when he means the media, I'll tell you exactly who he means, Jake. He means the Washington Post, the New York Times, and they're scumbags. They're absolute scumbags. CNN, MSNBC, Associated Press. Those 5 in particular. So now they're threatening these whistleblowers? We will destroy you. We'll destroy your life. We'll destroy your family. We'll print stuff about you that will destroy your reputation. You better shut your effing mouth. The media is now acting as the enforcers for the Democratic Party. They're freaking thugs. Jake, what say you?
Jeff, the time for people with courage to step forward, because talk and talk and talk is not going to get rid of these scumbags, including what you just said. I think, Jeff, could you let me know if there's any ongoing talks between Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson? Let me tell you why. Elon Musk, the most, probably one of the richest men, if not the richest man in the world, has the chance, has the opportunity to step forward and become the most courageous man in America. He could put Tucker Carlson on some sort of show, or maybe head Twitter or something like that to get the word out. Because it's going to take people that are well known, people who are famous, people who have courage. There's no courage in the media. Even on Fox News, they're lapdogs now to an extent. It's really disgusting. So do you think that people like Elon Musk should step forward and show some courage and form a new network and get rid of these clapping seals, these disgusting, illegal so-called reporters? They're not reporters. They're just clapping seals. Because what we have now is a narrative all over the country, and too many people, when these polls show 40% of people approving of Biden, there's something wrong. And it's the media that's wrong. And what you just said is 100% accurate. And how can we overcome that? I say Elon Musk.
Oh, I agree. No, look, Elon and Tucker, I know are in talks, and we'll see what happens. I think a show by Tucker on Twitter as his platform would bury Fox News. Okay, Joe Biden, holy shamoli, escalates now his war against his opposition, now saying that the greatest threat to the United States, the greatest terrorist threat, is that of white supremacy. And no, he doesn't mean the KKK. He means MAGA. Anybody that opposes his regime, as Mayorkas came out, anybody that is anti-government, who opposes the government in Washington, i.e. the Biden administration, they now believe is a serious threat to this nation. Listen now to Biden. Commencement address Saturday in front of almost an all-black audience, predominantly heavily African-American, graduate students at Howard University. Listen to him say, when I say that white supremacy is the most dangerous threat to our homeland, I'm not just saying this because I'm at a graduation ceremony at an historically black college and university. Roll cut to A, Mike.
and I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU. I say it wherever I go. To stand up for truth over lies, lies told for power and profit.
Right. It's inflame, 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 incite, 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 poison, poison, poison. That's all this loser is good for. 617-266-6868. Carmen in Medford. Thanks for holding, Carmen, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi.
Thanks for doing what we all need to do. But I wanted back to the border. I want to know where's Bitsy Warren, where all the I want to see her down the border. These are family. We'll put them on her front lawn, Jeff.
Oh, look, to me, she's one of the most colossal frauds in the history of the United States. And you've got now children dying. Apparently now a teenage migrant died in detention. They're overwhelmed. They're overrun. You've got children have gone missing, literally missing. We're now talking tens and tens of thousands of children have now been sold into slavery in the United States. This is turning into one of the great humanitarian disasters of the 21st century. And where is that idiot, as you rightly put it, that fake Indian? Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. So, no, Carmen, look, what we're witnessing now is a full-scale invasion. There's no getting around it. Now they're admitting 10,000 a day are now pouring across the southern border. A day. We've got 6.5 million already in the last 2.5 years. We're looking at 11, 12, 13 million by the time Joe Biden is done in 2024. No country in the history of the world can take in this massive influx of illegals, put them all on government assistance, never mind the crime, the drugs, the disease, the sicknesses. This is the deliberate, willful, premeditated destruction of the United States. And Mayorkas, that liar, went on the Sunday talk shows, and he's going after Abbott in Texas. He's going after the border state governors, saying, how dare they use the National Guard to try to stem the invasion? I'm not kidding. He's saying it's sad and tragic that they're trying to stop these people from coming across the border. So let me get this straight. The people who are trying to defend our border, defend our sovereignty, defend the laws of the United States, they're the bad guys? Carmen, I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. It's like I'm living through a nightmare. I'm living a nightmare. And I'm saying, wake up, Jeff. Jeff, just wake up. The problem is, I'm already awake. It's not a dream. It's reality.
Bad reality, brother. And you got to keep, I know it's not easy, but keep everybody's eyes open and see what's going on. All right, good to talk to you, guys. Keep it going.
Thank you, Carmen. No, look, it's not going to work. I'm telling you it's not going to work. Take it to the bank. I don't believe these poll numbers that have him at like 37, 38, which is, by the way, incredibly low. His real approval number is in the 20s. The only people now that back him are the Bills in Sudbury and the Bens in North Andover. You know, the Hitler, since they love Hitler all the time, the Hitler and the bunker types. Hardcore fanatics and crazies who just, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes? That's the type. Zombies, sheeple. So outside of the hardcore left, the zealous, fanatical, hardcore left, he's got no one left. No one left. Everybody's just counting the days down. And now with this border explosion, with this full-scale invasion, that he's allowed and he's collaborating and colluding with, you think his numbers are bad. Give it a couple more weeks. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Mike and I were just discussing this. Before I get to it, however, our poll question of the day is up. What do you think is the greatest domestic terrorist threat to the United States? A, white supremacy, a la Joe Biden. That's what he says. B, woke ideology. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, critical race theory. I could go on and on and on. What is the greatest threat to the United States today? A, white supremacy. B, woke ideology. You can vote. By the way, and as always, our poll question is sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner. If you want to vote via Twitter, our handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuh, N as in Nancy, ER. All right. I want to play the cut again because there's something really sinister going on. It's not just that Biden is openly declaring war on over half the country and that he's now weaponizing the FBI, the CIA, the deep state, the DOJ, to target opponents of the regime and especially supporters of Trump and MAGA supporters, conservatives, Republicans, but especially MAGA supporters. Listen to this cut. I want to play it one more time because something very curious was happening as he was saying this. Okay, Mike, roll cut. Let me see here. Roll cut 2. This is Biden at Howard University delivering the commencement speech. Roll cut 2, Mike.
Racism has long torn us apart. It's a battle that's never really over. But on the best days, enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us, to choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat, to stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Now, right on cue, as he now says this, okay, this spreading hatred, spreading division, inciting, poisoning race relations, almost on cue. Shazam, baby! There's a march towards the U.S. Capitol by about 150 to 200 members of the so-called Patriot Front. Now, many of you may say, Jeff, what the hell is the Patriot Front? So it's a group of white nationalists. You see what's happening? They dress in khakis. I swear. They have like this stupid uniform. They all dress in khakis. They have blue t-shirts, all of them. And they cover their heads. They cover their heads so you can't see who they are. And they march with the American flag upside down. And they're calling for the restoration of white power and of white supremacy in the United States. That's what they're calling for. And there they are. It was about an hour march. So they're marching towards the U.S. Capitol with their khakis, their blue t-shirts. Nobody can see any of their faces, so you can't identify anybody. And there's more police protecting them than there are actual marchers. And of course, there are a couple of, counter protesters yelling at him, swearing at him, but they're just marching to the Capitol. They give like a 10, 15 minute demonstration or speech. White supremacy, white power, return America to the white man. And then they head back, march back, in lockstep, with their khakis, their blue T-shirts, their faces, no one can identify them. They go into their U-Hauls. They have these white U-Hauls, white U-Haul vans, and they just put all their flags, all their equipment into the vans, and they get in, and they just disappear. Now, as they were marching, it was so obvious. Many of the, if you want to call them counter-protesters, whatever, just observers, were chanting, "Feds, feds, feds, feds." Meaning, this was a Fed parade. It wasn't a parade of so-called real white supremacists. This is the FBI. Biden needed a prop to go with his speech, and of course, that's what the media ran with. While Biden was speaking about the ominous danger and threat of white supremacy over the weekend, there was the Patriotic Front. There they were, 150 of them, with their khakis and blue T-shirts. And notice, you can't see any of their faces, because if you identify them, you'll find out FBI, FBI, FBI. And just 60 minutes, and an army of police, so no one gets hurt. Oh, believe me, no one was going to lay a finger on them. And they go, they do their little show, they go back, they dump their stuff into a U-Haul van, and suddenly they all disappeared into the subway, the metro as they call it, the metro system in Washington, D.C. Wham, bam, shazam, it's done. It's done. It's disgusting. The way the FBI is doing everything in their power to prop up this regime. And this comes now on top of the fact that we now have found out, it's now definitive. The CIA, I don't mean former CIA officials, current CIA officials were behind the Hunter Biden laptop letter. The Dirty 51, as it's called, the letter that lied about the Hunter Biden laptop being a Russian information operation. The CIA was the one saying, we need to lie. All of Joe Biden's corruption, the pay to play, the bribery, the influence peddling, it's on the laptop. So we've got to discredit the laptop. So the CIA and the FBI were peddling this bogus false letter saying, say it's Russian disinformation, okay? Okay? Now, if we don't dismantle the deep state, if we don't go after the FBI, the CIA, these crooked, corrupt officials, then we're not going to have a republic. Because this is now a joke. I mean, it's laughable. White supremacy, our biggest threat. Yeah. Oh, there they are. Oh, but how come we can't see their faces? Oh, all dressed in khakis, blue T-shirts. Yeah, all so nice and neat. There they are. Yep. And I'm telling you, you're like FBI, FBI. Oh, yeah, definitely FBI. Oh, 1 hour. Not even more than 60 minutes. Oh, they don't pay overtime? So you got to get this done in an hour? The agency's, they're getting a little cheap, huh? Okay. Yep. Couple of U-Hauls. Yep. There you go. There they show up. Police escorts them. They go back. And they're still in time for the barbecue on Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon, they're back at their house with their family and enjoying the weekend barbecue. Yep. Helping Joey out. That's what they got to do. Help Joey out. 617-266-6868. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Bull, you know what? That so-called parade, that was a Fed parade. Bull crap. Bull crap. I'm calling bull crap. George in Melrose. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So I called. I realize I'm a little bit behind the power curve this morning, but I was one of the whistleblowers who testified at the Rayburn building back in January. Not testified. They call it an interview. It's more like a deposition. But anyhow, you talked about the media trying to intimidate witnesses. So the Democrats, within hours after my interview, they leaked the transcript to their chosen media outlets. And I was getting phone calls within 24 hours after I was left Washington, D.C., driving back here to the People's Republic. And they wanted to know if I wanted to comment on the article. So it was Rolling Stone was the first one. Then CNN and New York Times glommed on that one. But the Rolling Stone article was a tome, and I don't know how many words it was, but it was long. And it was a complete... No, not a complete fabrication. In some cases, a mischaracterization. In other cases, outright lies.
George, can you do me a favor? I don't want to cut you off because this is such an important call. Hang on. I'm going to come right back to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to George in Melrose. So, George, you went up to testify at the Rayburn building about what you saw happening on January 6th. You were obviously not friendly to the Democrats. Within 24 hours, you're on your way home to the People's Republic of Massachusetts. The Dems obviously gave your name to their favorite media outlets. And the drive-bys, as Rush would call them, the drive-bys got your number, got your information. They contacted you. Please, George, pick up where you left off. George? Mike?
Jeff?
We got George and Melrose?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, George.
Yeah, just want to be clear. What I gave testimony on was the Bank of America Excel spreadsheet that was generated regarding travelers to the D.C. area, as well as the pressure from WFO, Washington Field Office, for us to open up cases on the people that took the bus tour down. That's what I gave firsthand knowledge testimony to. So I just want to make sure that your audience is clear on that. So within 24 hours, I started getting phone calls from my attorney saying, hey, this outlet here, this outlet there. But it was primarily Rolling Stone who led the way, who also, by the way, took down General Petraeus. I'm sorry, not General Crystal. And quickly glommed on with CNN and New York Times, Rolling Stone being the longest article, but almost entirely a complete fabrication of what was supposed to be confidential deposition. And it was a mixture of fabrication and mischaracterizations. Saying
George, George, I promise I'll let you say whatever you need to say. I give you my word. So this was, just so the audience knows, so your testimony was supposed to be confidential, meaning it's supposed to stay within the committee. So the Democrats violated your privacy, violated that confidentiality by giving your info to these media outlets, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Shall I continue?
Wow. Unbelievable. All right, keep going, George, please. So so you're saying these they basically then did some hit pieces. These were hit pieces, a put-up job. And you're saying what they then came out with was either half-truths, twists, manipulations, or outright lies, correct?
Correct. And then they tried to make me out to be a J6 conspirator because I had posted I posted items on Twitter using hashtags, like either J6 or whatever, just news articles, not writing, articles or, podcasts or anything espousing my ideas on January 6th, just putting them out there, articles written by good, respectable news organizations for people's consideration. And so and this is actually, this is the first time I'm sharing this with anybody in the media, because I've been on Howie Carr, Vince Colonnese, Julie Kelly, other outlets. So this is the first heard. So the Democrat attorney who works for Jerry Nadler tried to say, quote, the reason that they were going through all my Twitter posts was that it goes to, quote, credibility. And so, I'm sorry, bias. It goes to credibility. And when all the cameras were turned off and all the stenographers left the room, my attorney asked her, why did you waste 3 hours on your questioning regarding Twitter post? And she says, well, it goes towards bias. No, it goes towards credibility. And then she corrected herself. She said, no, it goes towards bias. To which I said, I've edited and approved tens of thousands of documents at my time with the FBI. Do you have a pattern of bias in the reporting that my squad did over the course of over a decade? No, I don't. Well, then, pack your lunch, sweetheart. We're done here.
George, so what you're saying is they tried to essentially frame you. Essentially, the media tried to frame you as being part of some kind of a seditious conspiracy on January 6th when the evidence was overwhelmingly almost the exact opposite. So, in other words, they're not interested in the truth. They're interested in doing a frame-up job in order to get you because they don't like your politics and they don't like what you believe in, correct?
Correct. Look, I was a co-supervisor for the Boston Marathon bombing. I've been decorated by the Director of National Intelligence, 26 years in the military, 13 years in Marine Corps, 13 years Navy Reserve post 9/11. I'm not going through all that as a pat on the back, but my career speaks for itself. So they have to discredit and dirty up the witnesses because the actual facts of the matter run contrary to the Democrat narrative.
When these reporters reached out to you, did they present themselves as, we just want to get to the truth, we're objective, nonpartisan, fair and balanced? Or were they threatening and menacing to you? How did they approach you to get you to talk to them?
It was more nefarious than that. We wrote this article. Would you like to comment on it? So there wasn't any opportunity for input. So I had to go on offense, and that's why I wound up interviewing with John Solomon literally less than 48 hours after my arrival back in Massachusetts, and then going on other outlets. But in fairness, like Vince Colonnese, I was on his talk show. People live within their own silos. So the outlets that I was speaking to was primarily affirmation of people's primary belief. And then the hit job that was done in the Rolling Stone, New York Times, CNN, were also affirmations of that group of people's beliefs. So, I can actually tie this into your talk about the white supremacy. This is a divide and conquer strategy. And then anyone who speaks up to the contrary, like myself and others, you dirty them up and you discredit them. And that's the game plan.
Unbelievable. George, phenomenal call. Thank you for your service, and God bless you, George. A really insightful call. Well, there you go. There's the media for you. They're assassins. Now, look, if you ever get a call from CNN or an email or whatever, CNN, New York Times, AP, Rolling Stone, Boston Globe, don't answer. Because whatever you do, whatever you say, will be used against you. They're not there to do honest, down-the-middle reporting. They're there to slant the story, get their message across, and destroy you. It's not journalism. It's propaganda. 617-266-6868. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks for taking the call, Jeff.
Hi, Dan.
Jeff, is it my hallucination, but do we have millions of people just going right straight through the borders? And if anybody's really noticed, they're not white. They're not. You've got a situation here where we're being called racist, but we're flipping the dime for 4, 5, 6 million people paying for their lodging, paying for their food, the whole 9 yards. We might not like it, but we're paying for it, and we don't have militia and everything up on the border to keep all these people out. We're allowing them in. We're racists. We're being called racist for allowing millions of people in. And not only that, but if anybody did a DNA on most of the people in this country, we are a mixed society, and we have been for decades and decades and decades. And quite honestly, what are they going to do? Are they going to be the racist? And then all of a sudden has to say, well, you're not quite black enough. You got only 35%, but you got 5% of this and that, and determine reparations that way. I don't think that there are that many people in this United States that aren't of a mix. So bottom line is here, we're not allowing blacks not to go to birthday parties or into churches or into functions or into events or anything like that. The racists in this country, Joe Biden, his administration, and all of the media that are trying to jam all of this stuff down our throats, because you know something? They've been lying. They've been doing business overseas. They've been doing everything that they tell us that we're doing wrong, they're doing. And you know something? That's what this cover-up all is. This is what all this racism is. This is what all this crap is, because these people are basically trying to tell us it's raining, but they're actually peeing down our backs. And I'm telling you right now, the lie is over. We know who's the liars. We know who are the racists. And it's not the American people. It's the administration and the media that are trying to shove it down our throats. And I'm sick of it. And I think everyone else is sick of it.
Dan, the $64,000 question. You have now a puppet president. He's clearly a brain-dead vegetable. He's a shell of his former self. He can barely read from the teleprompter. And yet he stands there and he openly vilifies. I mean, he spits on, slanders more than half of all Americans and calls them white supremacists and essentially Nazis, domestic terrorists, to their face, How does a guy like him politically survive? This is what I don't get. How come the overwhelming majority of the country isn't saying, excuse me, we're terrorists because we disagree with you? So we're not on board with your agenda? And all of a sudden now, you're labeling us an enemy of the state and an enemy of the people? How come more Americans just aren't absolutely outraged and say, this is so beyond the pale, this so crosses the line, it's not even funny? Instead, another day, another dollar. Ho-hum. What did you do this weekend? Oh, spring is really here. You know, Memorial Day weekend is coming up in a couple of weeks. It's as if he just talks and talks and insults and insults and demonizes, and most Americans just either aren't paying attention or they don't care.
Jeff, I think they know the fallacy and the hypocrisy of it all, because when you look at the situation, we just had Mother's Day, right? Now, if your mother, you had a white father and a black mother, are you going to treat your mother as a racist and not give her a birthday card? We've got so many situations going on in this country that makes Biden so hypocritical of what he says, because we all know that we're not racist. We all know deep down inside we're not. And that's what basically is getting in the burn of the belly of, that's why you're seeing the polling the way that it is, because they basically know that they're in trouble at the polls. And you know something? We're not violent like they are. We're not somebody that's going to take it to the streets like Black Lives Matter or Antifa or this other group that you mentioned. We're the rational ones. We're sitting back. We're waiting for this vote to come up, and we're going to romp and stomp on this guy. We're going to get rid of the DOJ. We're going to reconstruct the FBI. We're going to reconstruct the CIA, and we're going to throw these bums out.
Amen. Oh, Dan, from your lips to God's ears, we have to dismantle and rip out the deep state root and branch. Root and branch. Dan, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. Bobby in Haverhill. Thanks for holding, Bobby, and welcome.
Jeff?
Bobby, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call. I had a little fun with Joe Biden's commencement speech. If you'd just let me just read a couple of thoughts here. My commencement address to you, the graduating class of 2023, comes with a sincere and truthful message. You have earned your diplomas from hard work and self-determination. I look back to my past when I graduated and had my whole life ahead with dreams and aspirations. But I've made mistakes, big mistakes that I don't want you to make. I was not the best son, the best husband, and certainly not the best father. I found ways to be deceitful to become rich. I got in the wrong crowd for the wrong reasons. Money has become my God. It's like a sickness. It's a drug. I never have enough. I raised a son, Hunter, who is a drug addict, whom I cannot help because I need him. I am a greedy person. I failed as your president. In all honesty, I caused this country so much harm. I'm in too deep. Don't do what I've done. Don't be what I am.
And drop the mic, huh? And then he should have just left, right? You know, he would have gotten a standing ovation, Bobby. Really. People would have, yeah, Joe. Best speech of your life. Bobby, you destroyed him. You tore him to shreds. In 60 seconds, you just exposed him for the corrupt con man, grifter, and failure, loser that he is. Bobby, thank you so much for your call. She's completely right. You know, think about it. What is he, in terms of a role model, what kind of a role model is this guy for the people of these graduating students at Howard University? He has lied every step of his career. He's an incorrigible liar. He's corrupt to the bone. God, I mean, mammon is his God. Money's his God. He worships money. Look at his degenerate family, his degenerate son, and he's a traitor. He sold his country down the river to make a buck. I mean, if I were him, I'm telling you right now, I would never allow my children to hang out with Joe Biden. I swear to you. I swear to you. That him and that family, Junior, Ava, you stay away from that. That, we don't hang out with people like that, okay? 617-266-6868. Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Bob.
Everybody that's calling in, I couldn't agree with them more, and I'm just so upset after hearing Jordan speak Friday on your show, and what I witnessed this weekend with this mob of whatever they are coming across our border. We were in so much trouble. I don't know how we get out of it.
Well, Bob, one of the things I'm hoping for is Jordan is coming to Massachusetts on Saturday. I believe he's holding two events. I know for sure one is going to be at the barn of former Mass GOP State Chairman Jim Lyons. It's going to be 2:30 in Andover, which is where the Lyons barn is. I hope it is full of people. I hope people don't say, oh, you know, we're disappointed in the Republicans and I'm not going to show up. No, I hope it's a massive, overwhelming crowd. And that they tell Jordan, we want you to impeach. And for him to tell McCarthy, our message to McCarthy and to the leadership is impeach, impeach, impeach. So we can deliver the message to the Republican leadership through Jordan, where he's going to go back and say, Kevin, the natives are restless. Whoa, Kevin, there's a real insurgency, man. Giving them lines and, you know, telling them we're going to subpoena this and subpoena that and going on Fox News and acting all tough, that's not working anymore. They don't want words. They want action. And the base says we better start impeaching or they're going to come after us and impeach us. So what I'm saying is I hope people show up politely, obviously, civilly, but deliver the message because, you know, Jordan will be our conduit. He's our guy to deliver the message to McCarthy, to Steve Scalise, to Mitch McConnell, saying, you don't understand. Whether you want to impeach him or not, the base, the voters, middle America, they've had it. Impeach him on the border, and from that moment on, you impeach him on everything else. But start with the border. Because we can pass all the plans we want. They know the Senate won't pass their border protection plan. They want Biden held accountable. So what I'm hoping, Bob, is that enough people show up and really pack the barn, overflow crowd, and just tell Jordan, we want you to impeach. Tell McCarthy we have a message. We want Biden impeached. We want Kamala impeached. We want Mayorkas impeached. Like, that's it. Words mean nothing now. Talk is cheap. So don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. I think if we do that, Jordan is a very savvy, smart politician. Jordan's going to say, you know what? We got to do something. Kevin, it's not a question of what you want or what I want. If they don't get, look, the Democrats impeached Trump over nothing twice. The base wants Biden impeached. They want him held accountable. We better do it, or you know what? They may turn on us. Bob, I'm just giving you my honest answer. This is the only way we're going to get results. We have to push the Republicans to do the right thing. Am I wrong?
I add one thing?
Yes, Bob.
Jordan disappointed me so much Friday that I lost all faith. I'll be perfectly honest with you. He disappointed me big time. I thought he was stronger than that.
Bob, will you be coming to any of the events? I know there's one at Cape Cod Gun Works, and there's one obviously at the Lions Barn. Will you be coming to either one of those?
No, Stan, yes, I do go to those places, yes.
So I think I may go on Saturday. If the audience wants me to go, I will go. And I'll deliver a speech. And I'll deliver, believe me, I will. If you want me to deliver the message, you have my word. I will stand right next to him and I will deliver them about impeachment. You know, with all due respect, I know you need the Republican conference. I know you need a unanimity. I know you need Kevin McCarthy. I get it. So our message to you, loud and clear, we put you in power, not just to talk, but to do something. And here's what we want you to do. Impeach, impeach, impeach. So, let me ask you, should I go and speak at the Lions Barn? At the Jim Lyons' famous barn, right next to Jim Jordan. Will you be there as well? It's going to be this Saturday, May, forgive me. This Saturday, it's going to be at 2:30 p.m. It should be a rocking event. It's in Andover. I can give you more details. Should the Kuhner man speak? Will you attend? Is it time now for all of us to say, impeach this demagogue, liar, and traitor in the White House? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is a really good email on Joe Biden. Jeff, the whitest and pastiest old white guy in the country, going on and on about this fictitious, non-existent, quote-unquote white supremacy. Secondly, Biden's inflammatory accusations are 100% projection, because we all know that the greatest domestic terrorist threat facing America is the terrorist organization known as the Democrat Party. Like I always say, Jeff, an accusation from a Democrat is nothing more than a veiled confession. Well, you know, the greatest threat that we face is from this regime. To me, there's no question. There's no question. Compared to any other force on earth, no other country in the world could bring the United States down, but the Democrats are destroying it from within. Exhibit A, the border. Exhibit B, him going in front of these Howard University students and telling them that the main enemy that our country faces is white supremacy. And he elaborates by basically saying, anybody who disagrees with me, Republicans, conservatives, MAGA, ultra MAGA, Trump supporters. So pit racial groups, white against black, black against white, and have people destroy each other based on the color of their skin. I can't think of anything more pernicious, more insidious, frankly, more destructive than that. So, no, I'll say it again because it's true. The greatest threat to America and the greatest threat to our security, our freedom, our liberty, isn't Vladimir Putin. It's the Democrats and Joe Biden. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Jimmy in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. The telephone line developed a lot of noise, so I can hope you can hear me. But about a week or 10 days ago, Elon Musk did a tweet called, "Is it true?" So I looked at the Democrats' own source, the Justice Department, FBI statistics, and said that this white supremacy stuff is pretty much more like leprechauns and tooth fairies than any organized white supremacist organizations. And since the 60s, there's been like a horrendous and constant crackdown. So in fact, there's actually more black separatist and supremacy groups, even the ADL and Southern Poverty Law Center acknowledge that. But even them, they're not doing anything. They go out in the woods and have cookouts, rant and rave. They're pretty much communist, Marxist organizations. And as far as interracial violent crime, excluding murder, blacks being 12.5% population commit not more double, but nearly 10 times that against whites. Some categories, so-called whites, don't even commit. But then again, it's not fair to portray blacks that way because it's a small proportion that they're also victims of these vicious crimes too. And, but for them to perpetuate that, he's like, it's like Joseph Goebbels, they're like brown shirts. And for this to emanate like from the FBI and the Justice Department is so obscene and it's criminal.
Oh, it really is. Oh, look, I think the object is clear now. They want to divide and hollow out this country from within. And they realize the only way they can retain power is divide and conquer. And yeah, that may work in the short term, but in the long term, it's a recipe for disaster. It really is. I never thought I would live to see the day, really, where I'd see an American president stand there and show such hatred and contempt for his own people, for the people he's supposed to be helping to govern over. It's just, it's mind-boggling. It really is. And I just want to say this, Jimmy, because this needs to be said. Anybody that voted for Joe Biden, and especially anybody that plans to vote for Biden in 2024, you are aiding and abetting the invasion and destruction of the United States. Because now you know what you get with Biden. And what you're seeing at the southern border is an all-out invasion. And Joe Biden is complicit. So you're a traitor. It's about time we conservatives spoke the truth. Biden is a traitor, and you're seeing it now at the southern border. It's pure treason. And you still plan to vote for him? What does that make you? No better than Joe. Jimmy, thank you so much for that call. Dan in North Andover. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So good. So I'm on this kick when I'm traveling. I travel a lot. When I'm traveling on a plane, I just start explaining what's really going on in the world to whoever's sitting next to me. Or hopefully, I get to sit in the middle seat. I get two people. But so, can you hear me, Jeff?
I can hear you, Dan. Go ahead.
Sorry. So Friday night late, I fly into the belly of the beast, and woman sitting next to me, little further to the left than I would normally be, and she says to me, I start showing her pictures of what's happening on the southern border, and these people have no idea, Jeff. You know, there is probably, I'm guessing, 30 to 40 million people in the country that actually pay attention to what's going on. And I get that off the people I talk to and try to say, all right, if I talk to 100 and only 3 know, you know, the reality is most people don't know what's going on. So I start this conversation. I said to her, well, she says, well, why would they want this?
Dan, can you do me a favor? We're up against a hard break. I want to come back to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, do I have a story for you? Oh, but first, let's go right back to Dan in New Hampshire. So, in North Andover, forgive me. Dan in North Andover. So, Dan, as everybody knows, you get around, you travel a lot, you have a successful business, so that takes you on the road. You're on a plane, you're beside a woman, you're talking about the border crisis. She has no idea the invasion that's now taking place. And please pick up where you left off, Dan. So,
Jeff, I think it's even deeper than that, right? So you have a great show. You have some great audience, and you have a national reach through online presence, right? But there's probably, I'm guessing, what do you have? 3 million people a day listen maximum.
Yes, several.
With everything added, right? Yes. Several million, right? Tucker on his best nights had 5 million people, 6 million people, right? But you got to remember, a lot of those people are the same people. They're the same people. You know, they'll listen to your show in the morning, they'll watch Tucker at night, right? They're the same people. There's probably 20 to 30 million people in the country that actually know what's going on. The rest of them are all sheep. So this woman sitting on the plane, she's an educated woman. She claims to watch the news. She has no idea what's going on in the southern border. And I showed her what the camps that we're building in Panama to help these people through the mountains. You know, UN and US camps that we're building to help these people get here. And she's like, my God, I had no idea of this. She says, and I said to her, and this is a big question. No one, unless you're in my industry, your wife's industry, you don't know. The country only builds 1.3 to 1.4 million new houses per year. Natural progression in this country when Trump was in office was the new housing formations of 1.4 million people. When we add 800,000 a year, and that's a low estimate, Jeff, 800,000 a year over the southern border, where are those people going to go? We don't have housing for them. There's no way to have housing for them. So my response to her was, well, you do realize. Yeah, I said, how many bedrooms in your house? There's 4. I said, oh, beautiful. You must have a nice house. Yeah. I said, how many children? She said, 2. I said, they're going to knock on your door and take a bedroom. And she said, well, they can't do that. I said, really? I said, like when they told you couldn't go out of the house, you couldn't go to the store, you couldn't go to church, you couldn't go to the bar, you couldn't go. Oh. I said, like when they told you couldn't go to the restaurant, you don't think they're going to come knock on your door and say, hey, we need a bedroom, we're taking it. And you know something? That's starting to get people to open up their eyes. I've had this conversation probably 10 times in the last couple of weeks with people. When people look at you and go, oh, they can't do that. Really? Really, they can't? So it's all this big move to socialism, Jeff. There's no other reason for it. There's no way we could balance the poverty level of this country, of the world, by taking in a few million people. All it's going to do is cripple our economy. And we say this. Joe Biden's not a stupid guy. He's a corrupt guy, but he's not a stupid guy. Obama wasn't a stupid guy. He got to be president. I didn't get to be president, Jeff. These guys aren't stupid. They know what they're doing. I don't understand why. I can't figure that one out. But, for a few $1 million, you sell out your country, get rid of the best country in the world. But that's what they're doing, Jeff. And you know something? There's nothing else I can think of. And one other thing, last week's debate on CNN, last week's town hall on CNN, that was probably the most planned thing that ever. CNN knew what was going to happen. They put that woman out there who was an entertainment reporter until a couple of years ago, Jeff. They put her out against the Shark. They knew how that was going to go. I guarantee, my thoughts are CNN's going to get rid of most of its staff, and they're going to go conservative because that's where the news is. That's who's selling it ratings.
Interesting. Dan, I want to ask you, if you could have Jim Jordan's ear, or better yet, Kevin McCarthy's ear, the House Speaker, and you say, look, House Republicans, what do you need to do to stop this border invasion? What would you tell them to do?
My organization that I'm responsible for is in Florida, so I'm actually meeting with 4 of the Northern Florida House of Representatives members this week. I'll be down in Washington. I'm going back to the belly of the beast on Wednesday. Honestly, I have an agenda that I have for my organization, but I always add in what's going on in the world and what we need to do. So reality is, it doesn't do us any good to try to impeach Biden or even Mayorkas, because we're not going to get an impeachment in the Senate. So we're not going to get a conviction in the Senate. It does no good to impeach him. We do have the power of the purse. You know, we have the House of Representatives. We have the power of the purse. We can stop funding some of this BS stuff that's going on. But beyond that, reality is these guys got to find some better way of reaching the general public, because that's what the Democrats control. The dumbing down of this country was huge for the Democratic Party, huge. So, Jeff, we can try all we want. You reach your few million people. The rest of them, combined reach a few million people. Maybe 20, 30 million people in the country actually know what's going on. The rest of us have to be soldiers out there and tell everybody. I email out, when I'm sitting on the plane, I text out a link to your website. I text out a link to Dan Bongino's website, so these people can start following this stuff. But if they want. But if I've woken their eyes enough, but every one of us has to be doing that. I've said that, can't be just the red hats, can't be just the red T-shirts. We need to be out there talking to people and convincing them, showing them the actual footage of what's going on, with the January 6th parade, as I call it, with the border. And, it's the only way we're going to take back the country is if we keep talking to people.
Dan, you make a lot of sense. As always, a lot of sense. Dan, thank you so much for that call. I always learn something from you, Dan. 617-266-6868 is the number. My answer to the question, and, obviously people can agree to disagree. Why are they allowing this invasion? Why have they allowed this invasion, but now it's intensified? Lifting Title 42, and now we have a full surge crisis at the border. It's to replace us. I think there's no question. Yes, it's to allow cheap labor. No question. Yes, it's the willful destruction of America, wipe out the middle class to bring about a socialist regime. There's no question. But ultimately, they're there to replace us as workers, replace us as citizens, replace us as Americans. That's to swamp us, to literally swamp and have us be conquered. It is the great replacement. And to show you, there's no exact, to me, you want to see how obvious it now is? Listen now to this. As they're pouring in across the border, they are now being sent to cities all over the United States. And one of the big magnets is, of course, New York City. Why? It's a sanctuary city. Like Boston, they're proud of being a sanctuary city. The liberals, send them to us. Okay. So you get sent to New York. You get all the welfare you want. This has been widely documented. So you get food, shelter, clothes, free education, health care. You get everything. You're even put up in hotels. Not motels, but hotels. So much so that they throw out the food. It's been well documented. These illegals throw the food out. Well, the problem now is, according to Eric Adams, that moonbat mayor of New York, 265,000 migrants, illegals, have now poured into New York City. They can't house that many. It's exactly what Dan was talking about. There's not enough places for them to stay. Never mind the computers, the iPads, the phones, the food, the welfare, the everything, the schools, the hospitals. So now Adams is deliberately sending these illegals north of the city into the suburbs, into other counties, other suburbs. One of them is Orange County, not the one in California, because when I think Orange County, I think California. No. This is Orange County in New York State. It's about 60 miles north of New York City. At a hotel, the Crossroads Hotel in Newburgh, you can look it up, Newburgh. I believe it's pronounced Newburgh. If not, I apologize. A local nonprofit had a deal with the hotel. The contract was signed, in which nearly 24 homeless veterans, most of them from the Vietnam era, a few from Afghanistan, were temporarily staying at that hotel. The nonprofit was paying for their rooms. $88 a night. Well, you're not going to believe what just happened over the weekend. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, big story. I want to get to it, obviously, and go right back to the blazing phone lines. However, I need to add some more material. Apparently now, this is breaking. Logan Airport, that's right, big international airport here in Boston, is about to get really busy. It now appears that the Department of Justice, the FBI, the DHS, my bad, the DOJ and the DHS are now going to be sending waves of flights of illegals into Boston, and then they will be spread out and distributed all across Massachusetts, into New Hampshire and Rhode Island. Apparently now, Ayanna Pressley, this is what Donnie Palmer is now reporting, Ayanna Pressley is now planning to have tent cities set up in her district, which is the greater Boston area, in parks, in public universities, even on private land. All of it now in the name of equity. So get ready, because the problem New York is now facing, it's coming here. It's coming here. And now Logan is bracing. Members of Congress are bracing. In fact, they're welcome. Ayanna Pressley is welcoming this. We have our moonbat crazy mayor, Holden Healy. Maura Healey is now welcoming all of these illegals. They want to roll out the red carpet. So get ready, because the illegals are coming. Now, very quickly, this is a text I got from 917. Jeff, your previous caller, Dan, is 100% correct. Soon, they will be asking American citizens to put illegals into our rooms and into our homes. He says it's already happening in Sweden. In Sweden, Jeff, when the government declares a property, quote unquote, underutilized, meaning you have a spare bedroom, the government can expropriate it for migrant housing. In other words, they force you to take in a migrant. They expropriate the room, not the house, but the room. This is going to happen here faster than anyone thinks. We don't have enough housing to accommodate millions and millions of illegals pouring into our country. Now, to prove to you that this is already happening, massive story in New York. It is, you want to talk about sparking shock and outrage. So, Eric Adams now has 265,000 illegals already in his city. They are crammed. They cannot take in any more. So, Mr. Sanctuary City is now waving the white flag. Now he is putting them on buses, sending them upstate, about 60 miles north of New York City, in Orange County. In one of these areas in Newburgh, Newburgh, you can look it up, don't take my word for it. New York Post, New York Sun, local papers now are just all over this story. A hotel called the Crossroads Hotel had an arrangement, a legal contract, a signed contract with a local nonprofit group that helps homeless veterans. There was about 20 homeless veterans. Most of them served in Vietnam, but there's one, for example, he's 24 years old, recently came back from Afghanistan. Many of them suffer from severe PTSD and other issues. They're looking to put them in permanent housing. So as a temporary place for them to stay, they got a contract with this hotel, $88 a night for them to stay for 1 month. 2 weeks into their stay at the hotel. Again, I want to stress this. These are vets, homeless veterans. Some of them with signs. Hungry, homeless, please help. Now, Eric Adams and the moonbat governor of New York. You want to see how disgusting the Biden regime is? You want to see what a bunch of SOB traitors they are? They told the hotel, we'll double the rate. Forget $88. We're going to give you $190 a night. Kick the homeless vets out, give them the boot, and replace them with these illegals. Well, what do you think happened? Over the weekend, they're out. They're out. The homeless veterans were kicked out of the Crossroads Hotel. By the way, other homeless vets in other hotels and motels in Orange County, several other towns, were also kicked out. And now they're cramming all of these hotels with illegal migrants, illegal aliens. And you even see the picture. By the way, they're almost all young men. So you see the illegals, all of them with new sneakers. I wonder who paid for that. New blue jeans. All of them, by the way, they're giving out phones. That story now is broken. Mayorkas, DHS, and Biden are giving out phones, the Biden regime, to all of these border crossers and illegal aliens. They give them a packet, and part of the packet are phones. They say to keep track of them, but it doesn't matter. They can throw away the phone if they don't want to be kept track of, but now they're giving them phones. So, iPads, this is disgusting. iPads, free food, free shelter, hotels. Gift cards, McDonald's gift cards, Dunkin' gift cards, Starbucks gift cards. If they have children, put them up in school. Put them up in school. Free health care. And by the way, many of them, and now they can't, the Biden regime cannot lie about this because it's all being documented. Many of them have court dates 2027, 2028, some of them 2032 to go for their so-called immigration hearing. And they're openly admitting, these illegals, we're not going to show up. What are you, nuts? We get a social security number, all the government assistance we want. Eventually we'll just disappear into the shadows. And hello, America. You want to talk about a betrayal? These are men and women who volunteered to serve our country, to put themselves in harm's way for us. For us. And these sons of you-know-what, these SOBs, throw these homeless veterans out. They break their contract with the hotel and say, screw the homeless vets. In other words, screw American citizens. Screw these heroes and warriors. By the way, blank you. Thank you for your service. And you make room for these criminals? These foreigners? Illegals? These arrogant young punks? And by the way, look at them. None of them look to me like they've been missing a meal for a long time. They're young, they're strong, they're vigorous. They don't seem very grateful to be here, I'll tell you this. And these poor vets are kicked out on the street again? It is beyond disgusting. It is beyond disgusting. It is beyond revolting. This is who Joe Biden is. This is who Mayorkas is. This is who Eric Adams is. And by the way, Adams is now bitching. Forgive my word, but that's what he's doing. Okay? Forgive the use of the word. He's bitching about, the suburbs in upstate New York won't take them in. They're being so selfish. Hey, you said you were a sanctuary city. You libs with your big mouth. You said, we'll take them, send them. We're so compassionate and tolerant with respect for diversity. So you made a big show of your virtue signaling. So take them in. Don't dump them on everybody else. You wanted them. You got them. Now, you can't pay for them. There's no room. Well, hey, stupid. Maybe you should have thought of that before you threw out the welcome mat. Maybe you should have thought of that before you announced to the entire world you're a sanctuary city or a sanctuary jurisdiction. So if I'm living in Orange County in upstate New York, I'm like, hold on, whoa. We didn't ask for this. No, you in New York City, you moonbats, you liberals, you made a big parade of how you love illegals and how no one is illegal. Well, then you take care of them. Well, you can't handle the inflow? Well, you should have thought of that. What they have now done to the vets is, to me, unforgivable. It's unpardonable. But I'm telling you, this is just a taste of what's to come. If they can do this to homeless veterans, what do you think they'll do to you and me? Where does it end? It doesn't end. If anybody deserves housing in the United States, it's our homeless vets. If anybody deserves a meal, it's our homeless vets. If we're going to be giving out phones, anyone who deserves a phone is our homeless vets. Instead, we give everything to these illegals. Why? Why? I'll tell you why. Because those are our conquerors. To the regime, they're here to replace us and eventually to rule over us. This is the most dominant, important issue of our time. Our country is under attack. Our border is being invaded, and the migrants now are settling all over the country. And now, literally, they are taking homeless veterans who have served in wars for our country. They didn't come back right in the head. That's how much they gave for us. And we can't take care of them? We throw them out on the street like they're a bunch of dogs? And make room for these illegals? It is beyond outrageous. It is beyond sickening. It is beyond disgusting. If no one else has the guts to say it, I'm going to say it. Joe Biden is a piece of you-know-what. He is a piece of, he's a piece of crap. And so is Mayorkas, and so is Adams, and so is every sick open borders liberal that defends this. Listen now, I want to go to the phone lines. Listen to this liar, Mayorkas. Listen to this. What they're doing now to our vets, what they're doing to our country, listen to what he says. Our asylum system, meaning bringing these people in and setting up in hotels all across the country, it is the jewel of the United States. We should be proud that they're kicking out these homeless vets. Roll cut 19, Mike.
It's extraordinary what we've done over the past 18 months or so.
There's a debate in your party about how restrictive the United States should be towards asylum claims. What's your philosophy on that?
So the asylum system has been and continues to be a jewel of the United States. We take great pride as a country in this world to provide humanitarian relief for those who qualify. But the landscape of migration has changed dramatically over the past 10 plus years. No longer are individuals arriving at our border of their own volition. They are arriving in the hands of smugglers that wreak such tragedy, such trauma upon their lives.
Yeah, why don't you close the border? And that'll stop the whole thing. You know, Trump secured the border, and it reduced it to a trickle. But what you now have in the United States is they replaced Trump's secure border with catch and release. They catch them, they process them, and they release them. And now they're releasing them all over the country. And SOBs like Mayorkas release them in 4 5-star hotels. And you have contracts with nonprofits regarding the sheltering of disabled veterans, homeless disabled veterans. And they now throw the veterans on the streets. Now you tell me, seriously, you tell me, this is your America? Ask these poor vets as they were being tossed out of the hotel. By the way, the woman, the great woman who runs that nonprofit, she was quoted in the New York Post saying they've lost all trust in the United States. All trust in authorities. They feel so badly betrayed and burned, I can't even begin to express it. I fought in the jungles of Vietnam to be treated like this. I fought in the caves and mountains of Afghanistan, defending us from the people who killed 3,000 Americans in New York City. And you just throw me out on the street like I'm a piece of trash to make room for them? They come first, I come last? Disgraceful. 617-266. But no. Let's not impeach Mayorkas. No. Hey. No. Let's not impeach Kamala. The borders are. No. Biden. No. Jeff. We don't have the votes in the Senate, Jeff. They sent us here to get stuff done, Jeff. No. The moderates won't like it, Jeff. The suburban swing voters, they don't like impeachment, Jeff. They don't like it. Tommy in West Virginia. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
Yeah, just to circle back to Jim Jordan, I have a lot of respect for him. He's a pit bull, and he's fast on his feet, and there's two people in the Republican Party that I have my eye on. Him and Congressman Donalds from Florida, the young black guy. He is sharp as a tack. And yes, we have to, because if this 2024 election happens and we end up with Biden in there, this will be what Hussein Obama said in 2008 after he got elected, to fundamentally change and transform America as we know it. My biggest regret was I voted for him in 2008, and truth be told, I thought long and hard. I said, I want to be on the right side of history, and I don't want to be that guy that didn't vote for a viable black man running for the United States office. And I'm a union electrician. A lot of my friends were laid off then, and one of the main reasons I voted for Obama was for unemployment benefits to some of my fellow members that were out of work at that time. And I thought, at least with the Democrats, in times of recession, they'll help out the people that really need it. And unfortunately, look what happened. And, maybe you can call it liberal white guilt on my part. But the other point, Jeff, is I own 3 homes in 3 different states. Opelika, Alabama. I go into the Walmart there. What do I see? Central American migrants at 10 o'clock in the morning. Young males, as you described, new haircuts, new clothes, new sneakers. I see the same thing here in West Virginia, at Lewisburg, West Virginia. It's a little over an hour away from my place in Marlinton. I go into the Walmart there to do my biweekly shopping. What do I see? Young Central American migrants shopping in groups, and they're funded by NGOs, non-governmental organizations, as you said previously. And then when I go to the Brockton Walmart on Avon, on the Brockton-Avon border, it's the same thing. And you're absolutely right. What they're trying to do is deliberately change the demographics of this country, because they sure aren't letting in a lot of Ukrainians. They sure are not letting in a lot of people from Afghanistan. But my God, they're letting these people in from south of the border, and they're going to be dependent on governmental services. And once you have a majority voting bloc like that that's dependent on the government, always remember this: what the government can give you, the government can take away from you.
What do you think Republicans need to do now, Tommy? Do they have to just sit back and let the disaster unfold and then hope the electorate bounces back in 2024? Or is it time for them to be more proactive?
Proactive. We have been asleep at the wheel for decades, and it's time to fight fire with fire. They impeached Trump. Well, they need to go after Biden, and it's obvious, this criminality of the Bidens, that it's one thing if Joe Biden had a wife that, let's say she was a military contractor where she supplied backpacks to the United States military. Nancy Pelosi's husband had governmental contracts. But those are contracts that went out to bid. So, low bidder gets the contract. Maybe he made the better mousetrap, Pelosi's husband. But how does the Biden family get all these payments from these foreign governments? And you have to ratchet up the pressure. At some point, people are going to say, hey, wait a minute. Joe Biden's sister-in-law gets, a payment from China. And I'm speaking off the top of my head, but that's where he has to get exposed. And if they don't do this, we could really end up with an America that is no longer recognizable. And what you said also about where all of a sudden we're going to go back to where eminent domain, hey, you don't need to own that house in Brockton. You're only there for 3 months out of the year. You know what? We're going to take your house. They did that in Connecticut. I think it was New London, Connecticut, about 20 years ago, where Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, no, you know what? For the greater good, we're going to take the 3 families of these blue-collar workers that live along the river's edge, and we're going to turn it into luxury condominiums to get a higher tax base.
Oh, no, you nailed it. Absolutely, Tommy, you nailed it. They're going to say it's a national emergency. You don't need 3 homes. Give us 2. 9:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Listen now to Congressman Chip Roy, Texas Republican. This is on Newsmax, and he goes right after Mayorkas. Roll cut 24, Mike.
He's a liar. That sanctimonious son of a bitch is welcome to come down to Texas. Talk to all of the moms who have lost their children to fentanyl. All of the people and the families who have lost in the school district in which I live in Hays County in southwest of Austin. Talk to those parents who have lost their kids. The 72,000 Americans who have died from fentanyl poisonings. How about the 856 migrants who have died along the border? And that guy comes up and he has the audacity to do this when he lied about Border Patrol agents and he just casually dismisses that lie. Look, that guy doesn't know what he's walking into. But Texas is going to start dealing with this. We passed a law here out of Congress, which is the best security bill that we've ever passed, but I'm not sure I give a crap. Texas needs to stand up and fight this. I'm calling on the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the legislature in Texas to do their damn job to actually defend the state of Texas and follow what we did in the House of Representatives as Republicans to pass a strong border security bill here.
I mean, I don't blame him. I'm with him all the way. But you can see the anger is visceral. I mean, they're playing with fire. I'm just telling you, man. I don't think Texas is going to stand for this. They're playing with fire. You want to talk about people? I mean, your state is being overrun. Your citizens are being murdered. Your border towns are being wiped out. And, the feds are telling you you're the problem? Texas will not put up with this for much longer. Believe me, and they shouldn't. Eric in Plymouth, thanks for holding, Eric, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for taking my call. There's just too much to say. Dan and the other gentleman you had on, 1,000% right. It's diabolical. Joe Biden is Pennywise. Stephen King. And the names that you have said, Nadler, Schumer, Pelosi, oh yeah, McConnell, et al. We're getting overrun. This is done purposely in moment, movement, momentum. Wake up. This is a nightmare, a living nightmare. And, the fentanyl that's coming, they're poking us in the eye. And the thing that the Biden said, souls of America. Oh yeah, that means all of us. Okay, so he's doing this to all of us, every single one of us. They don't care. They do not care. They are evil, is what it is. The things that they're doing and implementing, it is evil. Horror.
Eric, what do you make of now in New York, upstate New York? It's been widely reported. Homeless vets put up temporarily in hotels. They've now been kicked out of those hotels to make room for these illegal aliens that Eric Adams welcomed into New York City. He said, we're a sanctuary city, come on down. Now he says there's no more room, so he's busing all of these illegals that they're allowing into the country, and now these vets are being kicked out of hotels to make room for these illegals. Did you ever think you would see the day that illegal aliens would be given first priority and they would literally give the boot to our homeless vets? And the vets are now, they've been kicked out of the hotel.
Yep, that's what's going on, Marvin Gaye. That's what's going on. Yes, indeed. What's next?
That's a very good question. No, you're right. What's next? Are they going to start kicking us out of our homes? If they can do it to the vets, to the homeless vets, they can do it to anybody. Because that's what they just showed what they really think of us. Eric, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. Look, to me, if this isn't treasonous, if this guy isn't a traitor, I don't know what is, man. So let me ask you, I can't believe I have to ask this question, but this is where we are now. Should homeless veterans who fought in Vietnam and Afghanistan, those are the two groups that were kicked out from that hotel. They were Afghan vets and Vietnam vets. Should they be kicked out of hotel rooms in order to make room for illegals coming in across the porous southern border? Joe Biden and liberals say yes. I say they're disgusting traitors. What say you? 617-266-6868. Steve in Townsend. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Jeff, when do we have a breaking point in this country? Enough is enough. You know what I mean? Joe Biden committed so many times treason. He needs to be tried up with a trial and sent to jail. You know?
Steve, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. We're at the breaking point now. If the American people knew what's really happening at the border, I'm telling you, if they knew what the Biden crime family was really doing, just this story alone about the homeless vets being kicked out, there would be such an uproar. Biden would, and the Democrats would be finished. But they don't want this show in particular, and other Tucker Carlson, you saw what they did to him. So they're trying to suppress and silence and censor the voices of truth that are getting this kind of information out. Because they know that if my message would get out, if the facts that I present get out, they're done. The overwhelming majority of Americans don't want homeless veterans kicked out in favor of these criminals they're bringing in. They don't want it. They don't want an invasion at the border. They don't want our president to be owned and completely compromised by communist China. But the media suppresses, big tech suppresses. They don't want us to get the truth out. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is a text from 202. You can text us 70470, 70470. Jeff, we have a majority in the House of people who are elected to represent us, the House Republican majority. We, the people, don't want what's happening in America. So where is our representation? You're doing and saying more than 90% of our elected quote-unquote representatives. No one is stopping Biden/Obama. Why? I don't know what they're afraid of. I don't know what they're afraid of. I really don't. Unless, deep down, many of them secretly want this to happen. They pay lip service to pretend to oppose what's happening, say, at the southern border. But in reality, their donors pay them, and they want cheap labor, and they want all these millions coming in. And so they say one thing to us and do the exact opposite when they're in office. I don't know how else to explain this. 617-266-6868. Bob in Georgia. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bob. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay. Just want to emphasize one point about the veterans got kicked out from the hotels. It's actually the hotels are doing it because they're receiving over $100 more per night from the government for the migrants. And these charity organizations that are taking care of the veterans, they were only paying like $89. Not that I'm saying is right, but the hotels are the ones who actually end up having to kick the people out because they want more money.
Yeah, essentially, no, you're right. They're essentially being bribed by the government. You know, don't pay $89 a night. We'll pay you $190 a night and take in the migrants. And so the hotels are like, well, I can't turn down all this money. You know, Bob, I want to ask you this. If you were the owner of a local hotel, okay, say in your neck of the woods in Georgia, I've been to Georgia multiple times, beautiful state, beautiful. And you had homeless veterans. They fought for our country, made them have PTSD. They fought in Afghanistan. They fought in Vietnam. And you were charging them $90 a night. And along comes the federal government and says, Bob, kick out these vets. We got these illegals. Put them up for $190 a night. would you take the money?
Nope. No way. My favorite charity is Tunnel to Towers. That tells you something.
Now, apparently, this hotel, the Crossroads Hotel in Newburgh, Newburgh, they're a Choice hotel. They're part of the Choice chain. Honestly, Bob, this is one of the many reasons why I prefer local small businesses to these big chains. Because an independent owner like you, and you don't have any, if you were a hotel owner, or a motel or a bed and breakfast or whatever, you wouldn't have anywhere near the money or the profits that these big hotel chains do. But because you're local, you own the business yourself, you're not part of some greedy chain, you would say, you know what? I really do need the extra $100 more a night. But I love these vets. I love their sacrifices. I love what they gave for us in our country. I'm sorry, there's more to life than money. And I know, I believe you. I really do. And I know most Americans would be just like you. Nah, I'm sorry. You could put 200, 300. I'm not kicking out these vets, period. But it's these greedy corporations, these greedy chains. It's never enough freaking money. And that's why I said to Grace last night after this, I said, any Choice hotel/motel, I am never going to stay at again. I'm done. You're going to treat our vets this way? No problem. No problem. You're not getting my money. Never again. Not just one time. If it says a Choice hotel or a Choice motel, bye. We'll just keep on driving on the road. Bob, agree, disagree?
Absolutely agree, but I just want to point out one other thing. Unfortunately, all that money is our money that's being paid, and they basically passed that bill that they passed recently that's basically throwing all the money into these projects that most of us don't really agree. And unfortunately, there are also Republicans voting for that. So I'm not very happy about that at all.
Oh, I'm with you. Bob, I'm with you, and you're completely right. Completely right. Bob, thank you very much for that call. It's our taxpayer money. They've taken our money to pay more to hotels to house these migrants. By the way, in New York City, it's not $200 a night. It's $450 a night. $450 a night. We're paying for all this. But in this case, in upstate New York, $190. Okay, let's not quibble. $200 a night. That's us. That's our money. And these greedy chains are like, well, okay, it's better than $89 a night. Tell me, when they were in the jungles of Vietnam, you think they were doing it for the money? When that 24-year-old young man, I would say kid affectionately, but people will get angry with me. When that 24-year-old young man, who now is homeless, he's got severe PTSD, fighting the Al-Qaeda in the mountains of Afghanistan. He's one of the 20 that got kicked out of that hotel. You think when he was serving in Afghanistan to protect us, you think he was doing it for the money? I mean, it's so shameless. It's so disgusting. I don't know. How do you look at yourself in the mirror? No, really. Like, okay, you made a few extra bucks, but geez, you got to live with yourself, man. By the way, very quick, I want to get to the phone line. So there is a Florida couple. They're originally from New York. Now, it's not as serious as these poor homeless vets. These are vets that were living on the streets, for God's sake. But they planned a big wedding. They have a wedding. And they've invited about 150 guests, many of them from around the country. They live in Florida, but they're both originally from New York. And so they were staying at one of these hotels in that Orange County in upstate New York. Well, guess what? They booked 37 rooms for their guests. All of them paid in advance. They all paid ahead of time. They have a contract. They came in and said, I'm sorry, we're canceling all 37 rooms. To hell with your wedding. To hell with your wonderful day. These are all Americans from, California, Connecticut, coming up to New York, and some family members from New York. It's going to be the happiest day of their life. And this hotel said, no, we're canceling, even though you've already paid, even though we have a contract, because we're being paid more by the feds and by the state to house these migrants at a higher price. And the couple they go, is this America? We had a contract. Like, what did we do? We want to get married. Now our entire wedding has been completely upended. Now, again, it's not as serious as the homeless vets, but still. So this is how they're treating Americans. Your wedding, blank you. One of the most important days of your life, blank you. You're a homeless veteran, blank you. And the liberals are cheering this on every step of the way. Karen in the haunt. Thanks for holding, Karen, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi.
I've been listening, pardon me, I've been listening over the past few weeks and months and to the list of complaints about everything that Biden is doing. And I think the time has come to no longer just talk about what's wrong with Biden. I think it's pretty clear that I wouldn't even go for impeachment because that leaves the Democratic Party still in control. I would go for treason because he's not doing what he's doing because he has a weak, feeble mind. There are people behind him who are each wants a piece of the pie, and they're funding his administration. But Biden is completely complicit. He is planning the downfall of America. He is in agreement. So he's conspiring with enemies like China, our economic enemies, Soros, who hates America and hates capitalism. The gays, they have their little thing going. The climate change people, they want to destroy our economy and push in all of these climate change ideas that they have. And so I don't think the narrative should be any more whining about, and I don't mean whining, I think you've done a super job. But I think the time has come to stop complaining about Hunter. He's not even a factor. He's a sad sack. But Biden is the president in the Oval Office, and he and all the members of his cabinet and everybody who is complicit in what he is doing, including the heads of the broadcasting companies and the media, because they are all complicit by their silence, by not getting the truth out to the American people. We could wake up tomorrow. If we don't act immediately, we can wake up tomorrow, and you and everyone like you can be off the airwaves because you're enemies of the state, and then it will be much harder to pull the American people together. So we have a group in Congress, the 20. They really held Andrew McCarthy to the fire. They the 20. I think they call them the 20 Freedom Caucus members.
The 20 rebels. Let's just call them the rebels.
And we have a lot more. We have a lot more of those types of people who will be in agreement. But they don't have courage. People need numbers speaking out to make the wave come in and turn things. So the narrative needs to change to go for treason because he has been consciously complicit with enemies of America to take down everything that America has stood for and everything that has made America strong.
Oh, I love it. I think you're absolutely correct. It's treason. It's now high treason. 617-266-6868. Let me just ask you this. Should the homeless veterans be kicked out of hotels in order to make room for these illegal aliens that are now being distributed and placed all over the country? And take that poor couple, Florida couple, but they want to get married in New York, upstate New York. They just found out a couple days ago, 37 rooms that were booked for that wedding reception, now all of them have been canceled. They paid ahead of time. They have a contract. And they're like, well, the government's going to offer us more for these illegal aliens, so I'm sorry, but you're out. And so they're like, well, now our whole wedding has been completely and utterly upended. Should the government be allowing illegal aliens to take the place of homeless veterans in hotels? Should they take the place of wedding guests for a wedding reception? And should we have to start making room for all of these illegals that are now invading our country. Liberals, Democrats say yes. I say they're sick. What do you say? And ultimately, if they're going to start kicking people out of hotels and canceling people's reservations for weddings and taking homeless vets and giving them the boot, do you fear that soon you'll hear that knock on the door and they'll say, we want you to put up an illegal in your apartment or in your home? 617-266-6868. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, I will touch on the veterans things real briefly before I get off, but I've been listening to impeachment, no impeachment, etc. 33% of the United States Senate seats are open next year. That's 20 Democrats, 3 Democrats who call themselves independents, so that's 23, and the rest are Republicans, okay? The reason there will be no impeachments, we know they're gutless, Republicans, but the reason there will be no impeachment is because they'll be running. If there's any conservative candidates in primaries running against these people, they would expose them and say, are you willing to impeach the President of the United States? The Attorney General of the United States are two biggest problems. They control everything else, right? If we see evidence of what they've done. They don't want to answer those questions, neither in the congressional level or the Senate level. That's why there'll be no impeachments. But let's remember, Pelosi impeached Trump twice. That's 1 + 1 = 2, right? Not like 3, like the communist Democrats say, and the factless Republicans. Okay, and what did she do? Did he get convicted? No. And oh, by the way, how the hell could anybody watch the January 6th impeachment and see those videos side by side and to see how doctored the evidence was of the Democrats? How dare they go after him for January 6th with a special counsel whose budget, by the way, by the mighty purse string holders, has quintupled from 5,000 to well over 35,000, 5 million to 35 million. So we're bankrolling the special counsels, okay? So let me give it, and that's the sad part. You want to expose what they're doing before the election, but that's why they don't want to do it. The senators don't want to do it. The congressmen don't want to do it.
Nick, super quick. You're right. There are a lot of 33 seats are up. Elizabeth Warren head-to-head against Charlie Baker. If Baker ran as a Republican for the Senate, apparently Baker now is crushing Warren by double digits. She's only at 34%. Now, you know me, I'm not a big fan of Charlie Baker, but apparently if Baker was to be the Republican nominee, the Republicans could actually pick up a seat in Massachusetts and defeat the fake Indian. What do you think of that?
I despise the man, and you got me there. If that would have happened, if he would have run, I'd like to see, oh, by the way, fat, dumb, and lazy Ronna McDaniel, please come up with about 7 or 8 candidates to run against these congressmen as well. I guess I would go along with that. Now, real quickly with the veterans, I'm hearing that the illegals get about $3,500 a month to cover all their expenses. There are disabled American veterans who don't get close to that, right? It varies. It could be in hundreds of dollars, maybe a couple of thousand. These are people who almost gave up their lives, have almost given up their livelihood in many cases, right? And the illegals are getting paid. Purse strings again. When the hell does the Congress look at what the HHS is spending and put their foot down and stop giving them the money?
Oh, I'm with you, Nick. Nick, thank you for that call. Look, they're getting 3,000, these illegals, 3,500 a month. While we talk about homeless vets, we have elderly citizens who can barely eat and afford their medications. But we're giving $3,500 a month? Many vets don't get $3,500 a month. I mean, this is beyond outrageous. Maggie in Amesbury. Thanks for holding, Maggie, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Maggie? You know, I just wish they would treat me like an illegal, Maggie. I could use $3,500 a month. I don't know about you.
You know, me too. And all four of my brothers are veterans, so this makes me incensed. But I think here's what we need to do. Every member of Congress who supports this craziness and is not taking any action, they need to give up a room or two in their house. I think that'll stop it. You know what? Give up a room or two in your big houses, take in a family or two, and let's see how quickly they are okay with this continued surge.
Oh, Maggie, I love it. I think it would end it on the spot. Or better yet, if their children have a wedding coming up or something, say, nah, all the guests, we're going to kick them out of the hotel. We're going to cancel the contract, and we're going to have illegals take over. I think they'd sing a very different tune, Maggie. Very different tune.
Feel it where it hurts, you know? You guys do it. It's your idea. You deal with it.
You want them, you get them. Maggie, please tell every single one of your family members who served a big thank you from the Kuhner Man.
I will. Thank you, Jeff, for what you do.
God bless you. Thank you, Maggie. Okay. I'm being told in my ear, we got to wrap it up. Callers today, absolutely outstanding. Look, this border crisis is only going to get worse. Texas now says they will respond. They have to respond. The situation is going to continue to deteriorate. So we're not going to go anywhere. I promise we're going to stay on this story. It's time to protect America and put Americans first. It's now or never. Bye-bye.